All right, thank y'all. I hope everybody got a lot from Attorney Childs. Let's give Attorney Childs a hand. Okay. And I want to thank everybody for being here. And I want to, my timekeeper is my daughter back here, who's a Prairie View student at the main campus, who came here and helped us today. I want to thank her. And I want to thank y'all for sitting through this, okay? First, I want to apologize to Jimmy because I'm about to flip his schedule around. If he's here, if he's not here, don't worry about it. He don't know about it. But the first, I want to address on the schedule. I want to address the ultimate trust first before I go into the family legacy plan through life insurance, because what the video that we saw where people lost their land and families lost their land, it very much ties to it. When how could that have been prevented? And they said that the people lost their land because some of the family members, the property was left to different family members, and some family members sold, and when they sold, it devalued the property, and so developers were able to come in and buy the rest of the property, and that is huge, but that could have been avoided through family trust. Okay, when someone leaves property split among owners like that, yes, that's what happens. Some people sell their property. But if all that property was consolidated in a trust, a developer only has to speak to the trustee, right? The trust is the seller of the property, keeps it contiguous, keeps the value of the property up. Now, some people would say, why would a family member put their interest in a trust? And what is the benefit to them when they can have their own piece of property and it's theirs and they can sell it when they want to? Well, you make it an interest, you make it an advantage for them to put it into the trust. One, because it keeps the value. So when it's time or you want to sell the property out of the family, the property sells for its full value instead of that 1/16 piece that you own. Okay, that's first. The second thing is that the trade-off for putting property into a trust is that they can potentially become a trust fund baby. And how does that work? Well, when you do a trust, not only do you put your assets in a trust to be dispersed to later generations, right? You want those assets in the trust and you want the trust assets to grow, right? One of the mechanisms for the trust to grow is life insurance. So every beneficiary in the trust has a life insurance policy, right? That's a cash value policy that the trust is paying the premiums on, that, and a cash value becomes their retirement or their trust fund baby money. That's how trust fund babies are made, and you'll understand that in just a second. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the trust. So first of all, if you want, you can scan that on your phone, and when you scan this, let me go back one more so it'll be big. Scan that, and then as I ask questions, you can put these questions in the. This is something else I'm testing. You put questions in your phone as I ask the questions, and then those answers appear up here. Has everybody done that already? Can y'all see that? Does it say ask your first question or answer your first question? Okay, great. So the first question is what. Okay. Okay, this is dead. The battery's dead. I hope everybody can hear me because the battery's dead on here. Testing. Oh, there it is. Okay, so what words come to mind when you hear family trust or family bank. Type your answers in the on the phone there. Watch this. This is pretty cool. This is, ooh, somebody said generational wealth. Somebody said somebody need to be in class right now. Somebody said bail security. Okay, this is not word. I'm gonna leave this alone. The battery's low on this thing. Testing. Oh, there it is. Uh, generational wealth, security, financial plan, financial income. Any more? Can anybody put any more in there? Isn't that cool that y'all that it's popping up that y'all do this? Legacy, that's a huge one. We're gonna stop playing with this. Legacy, money, generational wealth, inheritance, right? Security, financial plans. These are all good things we talk about a family bank. I'm going to talk about the levels of asset protection. My name is Chris Watson. I am not an attorney. Eric is the attorney. I am the asset protection specialist. I specialize in protecting assets from I call it keep it light, LITE, from liabilities, from investment downturns, from taxation, and from entanglements. So if you're in entanglement and you need to detangle it, you can protect your assets on one end or another. And that's very important. Well, we'll go about it in a minute, but LITE, okay? So trusts are divided in two categories. First, I want to say, if you have a will, most people think if you have a will, that's all you need. No. When you only have a will, your assets still go to court, and the final say-so of where your assets go is by a judge. Okay? So if I'll say I want to leave all my assets to my daughter in my will, that will still has to go to probate court. When it goes to court, I don't know if how many people in here remember Palais Royal. I still owe Palais Royal like $34 for that polo shirt I bought in like 84. Right? They could still come to court and say Mr. Watson owes us out of his estate $34 plus interest, and challenge that. Okay. Also, um, um, a long lost, what can I say? Somebody that says they're your child that you didn't know about when you was alive. They can come in and challenge the will, and the judge makes the ultimate decision as to whether that's a legitimate claim or not. So you're in probate. Also, probate is all public. So all of your assets in that you are leaving, they're publicly left, and people can publicly look at that stuff. Okay, and for people that say that estate plans are for the wealthy, Michael Jackson, Aretha Franklin, Prince didn't have adequate estate plans. Isn't that crazy? Did not, and so their assets are tied up right now in courts before they can be divided. Okay, right? So, and if you think you don't have assets, I don't have nothing but the car I drove here over in on, and the property my mama left me that ain't got nothing on it. Those are assets, and those assets can grow in. Well, the land can grow in value. Okay, and so when you want to keep those assets in the family, and as they grow, and so that as the value grows, your family value grows. A will ain't it. The second level of asset protection is a revocable trust. I mean, yeah, a revocable or living trust. Okay, revocable or living trust is the same thing. A living trust, everything that's in that trust does not have to go to probate. It goes exactly where you want it to go, right? So when you pass, everything in your living trust goes. If in your living trust you want to go to your daughter, it goes to your daughter without anybody coming in and contested that, right? It doesn't even go to probate court. Does that make sense? However, A living trust doesn't protect you should you get into a litigation situation. It doesn't protect the assets in that trust. So if you have property in that trust, a judge can order a turnover order from the trust to liquidate that property to pay any judgments on you while you're alive. Okay? So it provides no protection while you're alive. It only provides direction when you pass away. So a living trust or revocable trust are for direction. The third level of protection is the irrevocable trust, and that's for protection. It protects all your assets while you're alive. Okay? So so keep that in mind. So, as we talk about an irrevocable trust, it provides permanent protection. What do you need protection from? Taxes, right? You need protection from liabilities, right? You need protection from investment liabilities. So people can't you know if you have cash, you put in the stock market and market goes down, you need protection from that. Okay, so once it's established, a irrevocable trust takes all the assets out of your estate, and now all your assets are owned by, well, the assets you used to own are now owned by the trust. Therefore, when anything that depends on your estate for qualification, remember this: anything that depends on how much you're worth or your estate for qualification, any assets that are in a trust are not counted for that. You'll see why that's important in a minute, okay? Like I said, it protects your wealth from potential legal claims, and creditors. Should a creditor sue you right now and all your assets in a trust, on paper you broke, but you driving a Rolls Royce, right? O.J. Simpson. You know what I'm saying? This is exactly what O.J. Simpson was, right? He had a $30 million, at least a $30 million debt against him, a lawsuit, but he was still living in a nice house and driving a very nice cars. Tiger Woods, when Tiger Woods wanted to kick his girlfriend out of the house, he didn't do it. He had his trustee do it. And she like, why you kicking me out of the house? That ain't my house. It's the trust house. And the trustee has control. Nothing I can do, right? So those assets are not in your estate. When assets are in the trust always owns the assets. That means they are never in jeopardy by any of your actions or your descendants' actions, right? So the trust is an irrevocable trust is something that is bulletproof when it comes to someone taking the assets from you, right? And the trust has stipulations and regulations within the IRS code and the legal code that protects it from taxation in a lot of instances, and protects it from being sued. So if you're driving down the street in a Rolls Royce that you don't own, that you just have access to, you run into somebody tries to sue you, they try to say they find out you'll run on the car is owned by a trust, it ends right there. Can't sue a trust. And we'll talk about why they can't sue a trust in a little bit, but can't sue it. Done deal. You protect it. Does that make sense? Assets in the trust are protected. So, shield it from lawsuits, shield it from creditors, shield it from taxation. This is the power of the irrevocable trust. Okay? Now, I'm sorry, do y'all want to get that? All right. All right. Go back to your phones. Which benefit of irrevocable trust interests you the most? Can y'all see that question there? Let's see what we got. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Asset protection. Whoa, asset protection. Okay. I guess people love taxes, I guess, huh? Okay. All right. Generational wealth transfer. Anybody else? Right? Tax. Okay. Come on, y'all. Look at that. Look at that. Wow. Okay. 30 more seconds. 30 more seconds. How many people? We got 17 people. 17 people. Well, 17 people. Okay. All right. So most people are looking at asset protection and generational wealth transfer. That is very important. I'm glad you're looking at that because I'm gonna specifically name two instances where that can pertain to everybody in here where you lose your assets. How many people own the home they live in right now, or have mortgages on the home they live in right now? Okay. How many parents had homes that they lived in that they neither had a mortgage on or whatever? When you take in Texas, when you take the over 65 tax exemption or tax deferral and you live to 95, do you realize that 30 years of taxes is due when you pass away? Somebody sat up in their seat. You realize that 30 years of tax, it's not a tax exemption. No, 65 is a tax deferral. So what happens is when someone gets to the age of when the parents pass away, now they realize they have a big tax bill that has to be paid within 18 months. Right? If it's not paid in 18 months, guess what it does? It hits the tax auction. That's one. Number two, how many have parents that needed long-term care or could have used long-term care? Well, you know that the government will pay for long-term care if you're not worth more than $2,000. Right? If you're not worth more than $2,000, how do you become not worth more than $2,000? I have a client right now. He lives in a $760,000 house, got two boats, and he always buys white cars, white Mercedes, white Range Rover, white, and he gets Medicaid. How did he do that? Everything he's own is in the trust. It doesn't account against his estate for qualifications for government programs. Right? So people who think they don't need asset protection right now. Now, if you don't have it, they're not going to take your homestead right now. But that bill, when you pass away, they're going to come after your property and things in your estate. The state is going to come after the property and things in your estate to recoup what they paid for your long-term care. That right there affects 90% of the people I deal with, whether it becomes their parents or whether it becomes themselves. Right? So a trust, now a revocable trust doesn't do that because it does not protect you now. Right? It protects after you passed away, but doesn't protect you now. An irrevocable trust does, okay? Types of irrevocable trust. Now, like I said, trusts come in under two categories: revocable and irrevocable. What makes the difference are the provisions that are in the trust. In an irrevocable trust, the spendthrift provision is a provision that, let's say you want to leave all your assets to your son or daughter, but that son or daughter is irresponsible when it comes to money. And since you left them $1.5 million, they want the whole $1.5 million right now because they're about to go to Las Vegas. A spendthrift trust puts provisions in it to where it gives it to them at a responsible rate, at the rate you want it to go to them. Okay? That's a provision in an irrevocable trust. Special needs trust. A special needs trust is a trust that is made for someone who has special needs, whether disability or mental or physical disability, that won't allow them to work. However, if you leave money to a special needs person, it goes against their eligibility for government assistance programs. Unless the money is in a special needs trust. And it doesn't go against their special needs programs eligibility. Does that make sense? So by leaving someone with special needs cash or assets to them, you're depleting their ability to get governmental assistance unless you put it in a trust. I think I'm hitting on a lot of people on at least a few of these things right now. Does that make sense? A charitable trust. Charitable trust is a trust in which the trust is designed to benefit a charity of your choice when you pass away. It could be a church, it could be the animal shelter, it could be SPCA, it could be whatever you want. But assets in that trust that you leave in that trust, whether it be land or whatever, can be left to a charitable organization at your demise, and it helps with taxation from your estate. Okay. Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. That's exactly what I just talked about. If you're worth more than $2,000, you have a spend down that you have to do. You have to spend your assets and sell off your assets before they kick in to help. $5,000 to $8,000 a month or higher for long-term care, right? So that $5,000 to $8,000 a month adds up when you're in long-term care, and the government is going to recoup that out of your estate when you pass away, whatever you have, unless those assets are where? In a trust. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
Do you have to be in long-term care for 5 years before?
I was about to let me get to it. I was just about to get to it. You're not gonna need no mental long-term care. I can tell you that. You sharp. because they judge that on your financial situation 5 years ago. So when you say, when do I need to do this? Oh, you need to do this 5 years ago. And then it counts down from there. That's so that you can't throw everything into a trust right before you need the care. So they have what's called a 5-year look back. So 5 years ago is when the stuff needed to be in the trust. And it counts down from there. Does that make sense? So now we're talking about the family trust, right? The family trust is where, one, we put the assets like we talked about the property. We put all the assets in a trust. That way, developers and people for property and land or whatever, they come to the trustee. And the board decides what happens. Okay? A trust can own everything. Stocks, bonds, real estate, cash, jewelry, gold. A trust can own all of that, and all of it is protected from your estate, from you being sued. So it can be the family board runs a trust. How many people have family reunions? Okay, all right. How many people didn't buy their T-shirt on time? Okay. Right, yeah. Yeah, some of y'all still owe Clara for them T-shirts. And she knows she owed me too. Right? At our family reunions, that's what we look at. We look for. We look for the T-shirts and who did the potato salad, right? At rich people's, and I'm not saying, notice I'm not saying white people. I'm saying at rich people's, they accept new beneficiaries for the family trust and cut the trust checks, right? That's what you do because a trust is perpetual, right? One, we have a new child that's 6 days old. She has been added as a beneficiary to the trust. Here's a trust certificate, right? And also, she has a new life insurance policy that the trust is the beneficiary, right? As she grows, it's a specially designed life insurance policy that's cash value. As she grows and becomes 15 of age, now that cash value is at the family reunion when she's 15 years old. Oh, here's your $50,000 trust check. Then as it gains more value, cash value, she's getting that every year, and that amount can grow depending on the value, the how the policy is designed. Then, when she passes away, 100 times more from her death benefit than she ever pulled out goes back into the trust, and then that money is used to buy policies on the next generation. Can you see how a trust could grow to hundreds of millions of dollars in 1 or 2 generations? Right? And when that trust, when we talk about family bank, the first thing we talked about, as those death benefits are going into the trust, now the trust has $10 million. Now, a person can come to the trust and say, I need $1 million to start a business. The family board can say, well, you know Chris can't start no business. Right? You know Chris can't. You know Chris can't. Chris can't, you know, come on now. But what are we going to do? We're going to write Trish that check. You know why we're going to write Chris that check? Because he has a life insurance policy that the death benefit is going to pay that $1 million back 100-fold, 10-fold at least. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? This is why the Rockefellers don't work nowhere. I ain't never seen a Rockefeller work at McDonald's or Wendy's. So it's called waterfall investment strategy because the waterfall is all the death benefits that go back into the trust. Right? Now watch this. So you have a family board that is managing the trust. Now I can't think of, well, I can, one person in my family that I would trust $100 or $50, $150 with. It'd be gone. My cousin Derek can spend that just like that, right? But one, if Derek has a policy in the trust, he wants to start a business, he has a policy in the trust, we can give him a loan that's collateralized by his death benefit, start his business. He might be successful. But even if he's not, the trust is going to be paid back when he passes away. That's one, right? Number two is that the money that goes out of the trust can be given to pay for education. You want educated people sitting on your board to make the trust grow, right? To buy the right stocks, the whole nine. Well, if the trust is paid for private school, certification, law school, now who's sitting on the board after 1 or 2 generations? A bunch of highly trained and highly educated people from the family, i.e. the Rockefellers. Does that make sense? So having a diversified asset in a trust, tax efficient strategy. Trust has its own set of tax codes in the IRS, right? Between trusts and life insurance, those have their own set of rules that no other financial instruments have in the tax code that gives the trust beneficial treatment when it comes to taxation and life insurance. So a trust protects against that. And when I talked about perpetual life insurance, that's what I'm talking about. Every beneficiary of the trust that's going to be added to as a beneficiary has a policy in the trust that builds cash value for their living benefit, right? And then when they pass away, it benefits the trust that money is used to benefit the next generation. Am I making sense? If you could design a trust for your family, what rules or guide rules would you want to include to reflect your values? So if you had a trust, right? You can pick up your phone and do this. You had a trust. What kind of stipulations would I put on Derek? First of all, Derek ain't getting all his money right now. Second of all, I would want the next generation, I want this money to pay for their education. Y'all put stuff up there. Go ahead. I want to pay for their education. Thirdly, I want, if someone, some people say, I want the person to be proven clean and sober. If they were on it when I passed away, as an incentive for them to be clean and sober, they participate in the trust, the family trust, right? Some people, want, rich people have a different philosophy when it comes to education and everything. Some people say, since we have the money, I want all the kids that's about to go to college to take a year off and travel the world. You understand what I mean? And if they do that, the trust will pay for it. You understand what I mean? That's a different mentality than people that regular income people, right? Because we have the money. So no one beneficiary can cash out all the money. That's a good one right there. Not have been in. So you cutting out all felons. They can't vote or get no money. Okay, all right. Okay, I hear that. I got you. They can't vote or get no money. All right. Travel. Right. Not have been in prison. Strategic. I can't see that bottom one down there. But able to make decisions without emotion. Okay. All of these things, when we do an irrevocable trust, we put these things in the irrevocable trust. It takes time. Sit down. Think about it. Think about some of the stipulations that you want your legacy to be, right? Some people say, I have an allegiance right here that they have to memorize and say to the attorney, the trustee, before I release any money to them, before the trust will release any money to them, right? And that's kind of weird, but at the same time, it's building something in their brain to have an allegiance to the family. You understand what I mean? So those kind of things, all those kind of things are things I would pay for education. I would request that they take financial. That's a good one. Financial literacy course. That's a good one. And as the trust is paying for that, they paid for private school, right? They paid for private primary school, which gets them a good grade. They go to private college. Now they go to Harvard Law School. And now, when they get out of Harvard Law School, they're just as qualified as anybody you can hire to sit on the board of a trust to make the decisions.
So what could you put in there if you were to, if someone were to get married? You already have a trust established when you get married. Would you say your marriage would need to last at least?
Here's the thing. They have what's called community property and separate property when two people get married. Everything in the trust is separate property. So if you think you're about to marry Rockefeller and then get divorced and get rich, it's not going to happen. That's separate property. That's a protection. That's an entanglement protection, what I just talked about, right? So I leave a bunch of money to my daughter. She doesn't believe I'm gonna do that yet, but I'm gonna prove her wrong. I'm gonna leave a bunch of money to my daughter, and she marries a guy. I'm not gonna talk about the guy. Let me tell you. Side note. Let me tell you what let me tell you how. Okay, I don't know if y'all know this. Erica and I were once married. You say what? Yeah, we've been partners in the law firm for a long time. Erica and I were once married. Alexandra is our daughter. Okay? Erica is one of the best divorce lawyers around. The proof is that I have to work for her till 2057. All right. So let's get that out. All right. So Erica, as you know, as you can tell, she's the petty one. Okay. Now a little bit of pettiness have rubbed off on my daughter. She's the sweetest girl. Now I'll tell everybody the nicest person I've ever met, the sweetest person I've ever met in my whole life is Erica's mom. The second one is Erica. The third one is Alexandra, but they all petty, right? So Alexandra goes out and finds her a little boyfriend named Chris Williams, middle name A. That was petty in itself. Her mama comes back and says, you know, I have a habit of putting my monogram on my shirts. She said, when you die, we could just give him all your stuff since you got his initials on there already. So that was to the side. I'm just telling you what I'm dealing with. All right. But I love him. I love him to death. But when Alexandra gets married, and the person that she marries is not entitled to anything in the trust. If the trust is giving Alexandra $20,000 a month, that $20,000 a month is not going to any alimony or anything, and it's not divisible property. And her share of the trust is not community property. That's protecting against entanglements. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
Yeah, what if she was married and then you want to do this trust? Now what?
If she was married, no, it still doesn't. She would be a beneficiary. She would be a beneficiary of the trust. Her beneficiary status is not community property, no matter what. It's, yeah, it's still her beneficiary status is not in the community property, no matter what. That's automatic. A beneficiary status, and Erica can speak more to this as the attorney. But a beneficiary status, being put as a beneficiary to the trust, does not make things in the trust community property. Period. It's always separate.
They're not the owner.
Because they're not the owner. They're not the owner of the assets in the trust. Does that make sense? Yeah. That Rolls Royce she's driving, for example, if she wanted a Rolls Royce and the trustee said, okay, Alexander, here's a check out the trust, go buy your Rolls Royce. If she takes the check and buys the Rolls Royce, that is her property. That's community property for them. However, if the trust writes the check straight to the dealership and say, Alexander, go pick it up, and you have full use and control of it, that's the trust property. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure if the question I'm about to ask. So,
okay.
But this is for the irrevocable.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think I understand how it's established, but I'm really having difficulty understanding asset generation.
We'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that in a minute. Right. And when we say when you talk about income, like I said, a trust can buy anything. The board of the trust can get together and buy a building. If you have money in the trust, right? Can buy a building, and that building is owned by the trust. And the income from that building is delivered to the trust. Okay, but we'll get to that in a second. You'll find that's just one way of Okay, so let's talk about. I'm going to touch on this, and then I'm going to move to the next subject. But this is the touch. So, using a trust plus life insurance is one of the ways that the trust earns income. When Jim Harbaugh, who's was the coach for the Michigan Wolverine, the coach for the Michigan Wolverine, they said, we'll pay you $9 million a year. You coach for us. He said, no, pay me 7, loan me 2. With that $2 million they loaned him, that cut his tax bill by $2 million, his taxable income by $2 million. He took that $2 million and put it right into a life insurance policy. He did that for 7 years. So $14 million went into a life insurance policy, right? It didn't cost him anything because it came straight from the school as a loan into the life insurance policy. That life insurance policy bought him a $50 million death benefit. Okay? When he passes away, now because he put $14 million and that at life, and we'll talk about this in a second, it'll make more sense in a second. When we put that $14 million in there, it started gaining interest for him. It gained so much interest that in 15 years, he'll be able to pull out $2 million a year for the rest of his life that he cannot live. And he'll leave his trust, the $50 million minus the 14 that goes back to University of Michigan. So $46 million, not 46, yeah, $36 million will go into his trust, his family trust. Does that make sense? And how much did that cost him? Very negligible. Okay, that's using a trust plus life insurance to build family wealth. Now he's able to buy put $36 million towards the family legacy, and that $36 million buys more policies on every generation. Does that make sense? People like us. I have a client, and I'll go into this some more in a second. I have a client, never made more than $60,000 a year. He's 37 years old. Taking for granted that he'll never make more than $60,000 a year, right? He was able to design a policy, one, that build a cash value. That cash value was built interest to where when he retires at 61, retired him at 61, he will be able to pull out $150,000 a year for the rest of his life that he cannot live. That's 100% raise from where he is now. And then he'll leave his trust of $3 million. The $3 million in that trust now buys policies on the rest of his on his grandkids or great grandkids going forward. And there, the younger you are when you buy a policy, the more the death benefit is, and the more the cash value builds up because of the cost of insurance, right? So you want this level of protection. And when I say protection, when I say life insurance, I really mean life insurance. What most agents or most people sell are death insurance. All the benefits come after death. We using this life insurance to benefit while you're living and to benefit your legacy down the line. Does that make sense? You control the assets in a trust, but you broke. You don't own nothing, right? I know some people be like, man, I'm broke. You got that cheap watch because this expensive watch I wear, it's just, that's what they tell me. This expensive watch I wear, it just, the diamonds keep falling off and everything. And then you ask them how much they got. They're like, I'm broke. They control it all, live in a nice house, nice car, but they own nothing. And that's the key to what wealthy people actually do. And then as we have a trust, we can make it grow. We can make it grow. Does that make sense? We can make it grow with assets. We can grow with life insurance. We can grow with stocks and bonds and things and other passive income to make it grow over time. All right. Got a couple of questions, and whoever gets this right, I got a gift for them. Who typically needs business trust? Only business owners, people 50 years old, anyone with assets, or only wealthy people? Click one. Click one. Look at y'all phone. Can you click on the phone? It's on the phone. You don't see it? Y'all don't see it on there? Oh, okay. Well, I got to figure it out. Okay, but the correct answer is anyone with assets or dependents. Oh, there you go. Somebody answered. Oh yeah. See if you can answer now. Only business owners. Y'all already know that. So it's NASA 100%. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. What is the primary purpose of an estate plan? Now answer. Y'all don't see it? Oh, okay. Oh well. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, do that. Oh, join. Okay, don't worry about it. Ain't nobody getting no prizes. Don't worry about it. This is gonna save me a lot of money. The correct answer is all of the above. All right. True or false? A will protects all my assets and makes certain that my desires are fulfilled exactly as I want when I pass away. That is false. That is correct. But nobody put it up there, so we ain't tripping. Oh, yeah. All right. Oh, look here. Capricia.
I'm number one. I'm
Capricia.
any. Remember I told you I said any.
She in it.
Remember I said
That is really shady. That's really shady. Then I got it. That's you. So any got 2 out of 2. Caprica got 2 out of 2. Anyone with asset, Dominic and Don, we got prizes for all y'all. All right, that's it. That's the first part. Any question on that? I can take a few questions on that while I change this. Okay, go ahead. Do what now?
That's $2 million area.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. And I'm about to show you. Okay, one second here. Hold on. Oh yeah. All right. What's your question? Who's the question?
So my background is in
Hold on.
life insurance and investment.
Where's the microphone, baby?
And so I don't set up separate entities. But I would like to know.
Start over with that.
Okay. So good morning or good afternoon. So my background is in life insurance and investment. I do not sell whole life insurance.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to understand with the cash value policies. A lot of times, yes, you have the cash value, but it can take years to access like a sizable amount, or you have to put a lot into that policy before you can access it. So I just wanted to be like realistic for the average person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm gonna go more into that in just a second. But the key to that mechanism is called max funding and overfunding. Okay, max funding means that. Matter of fact, let me do it right here. Let me do this first, since you asked that question.
Chris, if you need to write on the board, you got it on the board.
Okay, good deal. Okay, so the way a policy works is, and there's a difference, and I'm glad you brought that up because there's a difference. There's a difference between a um, whole life or cash value policy and what's the other one? Term. Term is like car insurance. You pay car insurance. If you don't have a wreck for 20 years, do they give you that money back? No, it's gone. It's done. So term protects for a certain value over time for a month, annual, a monthly amount over time at the end of the term. The key is a lot of financial people, a lot of financial experts say buy term and invest the difference. What that means is, okay, I need $500,000 worth of life insurance. I can get $500,000 for the life insurance, round numbers, for $50 a month. Okay? A term policy. If I get a whole life policy, it might cost me $250 a month. Does that make sense? But the difference is that $50 a month, let's say it's a 20-year term, it only protects me as long as I'm paying for 20 years. Right? And when that 20 years is up, it's done. Right? With a whole life policy that builds cash value, that $250 a month that you're paying goes into an account that grows for you credit wise. Okay. So I did this little crude thing. I actually did this last night because I knew somebody was going to ask this question. So this is you. I don't look like nobody in here, but just pretend. This is you. This is the insurance company. There are 3 buckets of money that happen. You have the premium account, the cash value account, and you have what's called the death benefit reserve. The death benefit reserve is as soon as the insurance company signs a contract with you to insure you for $1 million, guess what they have to do? They have to put $1 million in an account and hold it because they have to be able to pay you within 14 days after your claim by law. Unlike a bank, if you put $1,000 in the bank, how much can the bank lend out based on that $1,000? They can lend out 10 times that, right? If the bank goes if those loans don't get paid and the bank goes bankrupt, perceptually, it's never happened since depression, but perceptually, your money is at risk because they over leverage. An insurance company cannot over leverage. If they're insuring you for $1 million, they're putting $1 million over here in this bucket. Now, the key to it is they cannot invest that $1 million. They can't put it in the market because if the market goes down and something happens to you at the same time, they don't have the money to pay you. Right? So it stays in this bucket right here. Right? Now, the second thing is that they'll insure you for $1 million, but it's going to cost you, let's say $500 a month, round numbers. That $500 a month goes into your premium account. Okay? The amount over the time that you have the policy that goes into your premium account, they put what's virtually a line of credit for you. So you put $500 in a bucket, they give you a $500 line of credit. Where does that line of credit come from? They can't invest this money, but what can they do? They can loan it to the people they insure. Why can they loan it to the people they insure? Because if they loan it to the people they insure, when the person insured passes away, they get the death benefit minus what they loan to them. Does that make sense? Right? Now, the best part of that is that when they do loan the person money from this bucket, when they do loan money from this bucket, a couple of things. One, if you get a loan from a bank, what do you have to do? Fill out an application. They check your credit, and you got to tell them why you don't need it. Right? Right? All of that. And then they might say no. Right? Especially on a business. Right? With this loan, they don't ask that. It is, wire me money from my cash value. And they say, it'll take 3 days. You want to pay that $25 wire fee. And that's the first thing. Second thing is, are they going to ask what you need it for? Do they care? Why don't they care? They definitely going to get their money back. The one thing for sure is you're going to die. They definitely going to get their money back. However, when they loan it to you, it comes out of your line of credit, and you can pay it back and lift your line of credit back up, or not, and they'll just take it out of your death benefit. Am I making sense, ma'am?
So far. I think the big question is, a lot of times it's worth a lot of money.
I'm about to go into that in just a second. Now, the reason you say it works for people with a lot of money is because most insurance companies say that they won't give you access to this line of credit until you have a certain amount in your premium account. And if you notice that this money is staying here in the premium account, it's never coming out. The money that they're giving you in terms of a loan is coming from there. So this money not only is in this account, but it's earning an interest rate. Uninterrupted compounded interest. Does anybody know what uninterrupted compounded interest is? Let me ask you something. If I took a penny today, put in a bucket, double what I did today, 2 pennies tomorrow, right? And put in the bucket. Double that, 4 pennies the next day, put in the bucket. Double that, 8 pennies, so on and so on for 30 days. Okay? How much would I have in 30 days? Give me a wild guess.
$3 million.
Huh?
3 million.
3 million? Who said 3 million? 3 million? What do you say?
I said 300.
$300? 3,000? $8 million
In 30 days?
in 30 days. Look it up online. Somebody look that up. Somebody do compounded interest, penny a day, 30 days. $8 million. Okay, that's compounded interest. So the money that's going into this bucket is being credited on an interest rate based on the stock market. The money's not in the stock market, but it's based on the stock market. Stock market goes up 10%. They credit your account 10%. So it's and this money never comes out of this bucket. So it's uninterrupted compounded interest. Does that make sense? Now, this money contributes to the cash value. Now, when you say, they say you have to put a considerable amount of money before you have access to it. When you put, let's say a lot of them say if you're paying, let's say for round numbers, you're paying $250 a month. That would be $3,000 a year. They say you don't have access to it until you have at least $5,000 in your premium account, right? So that wouldn't give you access to it until 2.5, almost 3 years. Almost 2 years, right? Or more than 2 years, right? You wouldn't have access to it. Well, if you put that $5,000 into there right away, you have access to it right immediately. But here's the thing. I got to pay my bills, right? I can't do that. Stick with me. So with this bucket, you have compounded uninterrupted interest, uninterrupted compounded interest, money going in this bucket, and then the money's not in the market. They just credit it based on the market. So let's say, oh man, yes. How many people have 401ks? Y'all looked at it since yesterday? Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. Don't look at it Monday either. Don't do that to yourself because it's lost a lot of value, right? Whereas money here is based on the market, but there's a ceiling of what you can earn. If the market goes up 20%, you can only earn up to 12%. But conversely, if the market goes down, you lose nothing, right? So people who have money in a policy, the market just dropped precipitously yesterday. Everybody, y'all know that? Does everybody know that? Does everybody know that? Hey, wait till Monday. Wait till Monday. The tariffs kicked in today. Wait till Monday. It's going to be crazy. So, but everybody who's here is not going to lose anything, right? As a matter of fact, over the long term, this money here is going to gain at 7% interest averaged out. Okay? Now, and I'm going to show you what that means in a second. Okay? Okay, so I just want to put that out there. Now, here's the turbo. And this is where the family trust comes in. Okay, so does everybody have a job? Does everybody work? Has everybody worked before? All right, okay, good. That's what we'll deal with. Everybody that worked before. Okay, so you have your job income. And when you earn money from your job income, what do? You put it in the bank. All right? Your money gets, is anybody doing it any other way? Anybody taking money under the table or something? Any barbers in here? If you're a barber, don't worry about it. I got you. Right? You put it in the bank, and then you pay your bills. And you pay your taxes. And you have a little bit for savings. Is there any other way anybody else did it? Besides money that before it comes in here, it might go to your 401k or something like that, right? That's the only way I know. Okay, that's what we call the workflow. Okay, let's do something else. Let's look at another scenario, the wealth flow. Money comes into your bank, and let's say you send the money to another place. You send it to your bank. You got your own bank. So you send your money to your bank. And your bank is backed by the insurance company. And the insurance company tells you for putting it in our bank, first of all, we're going to give you a death benefit, let's say of $1 million. So if you pass away, no matter what you put, if you put $250 in our bank, if you pass away tomorrow, we're going to give you $1 million. Right? Secondly, we're going to give you an interest rate of about 6%. Right? 6 to 12%. And your money is not going to lose any money. It's based on the market, but if the market goes down, we're not going to decredit your money. Does that make sense? That's what the insurance company is going to do for you. And then, as long as you keep putting money in our bank, we're going to give you a lifetime income benefit at some point that you cannot live. Right? Well, that's all fine and dandy, Chris, but I got to pay my bills. Right? I sent all my money over here, but I ain't paid my bills yet. The insurance company says, well, look, we'll give you the money to pay the bills from our, remember the account over here, the death benefit account? We're going to give you the money to pay the bills, and we're going to charge you 3%, which is the prime rate. But remember, we're crediting you 6 to 12% over here. So we're going to charge you 3%, but we're going to credit you an average of 6 to 12% over here. So there's an arbitrage, let's say between 3 and 6. What's the You're still making 3% over here in your premium account bucket in your bank, right? But you've used the money to pay your bills. Now you double leverage the money. The money is over here earning 6%, and you've paid your bills with it. Does that make sense? Am I making sense on that? Okay. The money over here is earning uninterrupted compounded interest, immediate liquidity for investing. Why is it immediate liquidity? Because remember, the money you put over here, they gave you a line of credit on from their death benefit account. Does that make sense? It's safe against loss because you have a zero floor, right? The growth, that 6 to 12% growth, is tax free. Any other account, when you have growth, you got to pay taxes on it. Right? You got to pay tax in going in, or you got to pay taxes on going out. You don't pay tax on money going into your 401k, right? But when you take it out, you get taxed. Watch this. That's pretty good, huh? I mean, that's something you learn that's pretty good, right? But do you think taxes are going to be higher today, or are they going to be higher 20 years from now? Right? So you saving money in a 401k to be taxed at a higher rate 20 years from now. Right? This is how wealthy people start thinking. Right? So, but this is tax-free growth. And then they're going to give you a lifetime income benefit, and then they're going to give you a death benefit. All for moving your money to the bank, to your own bank. And they're going to give you money out of their account to pay your bills. So you've double leveraged the money. The money's earning over here, and you paid your bills on it. Now here's where the trusts kick in. So notice that I said this disappears right now. They said they loan you some money, but the money they loan you, you could take that money, the same money that you put in the bank that they just loaned you, you could take that money and put it into somebody else's policy. I just told you that I had a client who made he would be making $120,000. The insurance company would be paying him instead of him paying it. They'd be paying him a retirement of $150,000 based on him moving money in the account, moving money into an account just like this, right? But let me see who's smart. When you pull that, when you got the money from the insurance company back into your account, let's say you put $1,000 into your account over here. They got $1,000 back into your account. What would be the first bill you pay? Mortgage? Anything else? Cars? Mercedes? You look like you got a big old Mercedes. Why not pay your spouse's policy? Because I just built you a policy that's going, if you follow this, it's going to give you $150,000 a year for the rest of your life. Now you can move the same dollars into your spouse's policy, and their policy is going to pay $150,000 a year for the rest of your life at some point. So now not only have you double leveraged the money, you leveraged it again through one policy. Then you can take the same money and leverage through another policy and through another policy. This is what the trust does. So everybody who has policies inside the trust uses the funds of the trust to put into their premium, every policy's premium account, the same dollars, and then pay your bills. Did I lose anybody on that? Questions? So now, go ahead.
You lost me when I put my money in that bank.
You put that bank over there,
What is?
and now it's sitting in this bank, sitting in your. This is your premium account.
I want
The insurance company is going to send it to you in a loan. When you it's classified as a loan.
Friday, I get my loan.
You get your loan 3 days later. Now, the 3 days. The concept is that you can put the money in the policy. You can redeem it in a loan 3 days later. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you use that money to go through policies and use to pay bills. The trust is right here. It owns policies on every generation. Does that make sense? So now you have triple leveraged the money and then paid your bills. Hold on.
That's
Well, it's Uncle
that's
Sam.
what lost me. I'm like, why is it going
Uncle Sam is the bills though. You still got to pay him. You still got to pay him. So one, you use the banks, the insurance company's money to pay your bills. It secures your future retirement. Why? Because this money here is uninterrupted compounded interest. To where at a certain point, the insurance company is going to pay you instead of you paying it. Does that make sense? Then it cuts the risk of investment because there's no downturns in the market. You lose money if you don't lose money if the market goes down. And okay, go ahead. Who's that? Oh,
I was kind of curiosity. Why would a business policy on? I noticed that.
a policy on its employees.
Yeah, employees. Yeah.
Well, in
Is business trying to like
well,
leverage
the business
system?
absolutely. That's what they're doing. If you pass away, you work for the business. You pass away, they get a windfall on their books, and they can use the policy as you're alive on their books as additives to their value, right?
Life insurance is the world's safest industry. There's an account that yields 5 to 6 times more than long-term CDs. Has guaranteed returns in most cases. Does not have to be reported to the IRS. Can be accessed any time without penalty. Lets you retire 100% income tax-free. And yet almost no one knows how wonderful these plans are because the government places tight restrictions on the advertising of these accounts, even though they are 100% legal. Why are they secret? Because they can't make a dime off of them. If we sold cash value life insurance to everybody in America, there would be no tax revenue for these guys to screw up.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So you having tax-free growth. So now we've used a trust to carry life insurance on all of the family down the line, right? All of the from babies that are 6 days old all the way to adulthood, and the trust is holding those policies, and the trust is paying those policies and using the cash value to make trust fund babies.
All of what you're talking about is irrevocable.
Irrevocable trust. Yes, this was one type of the dynasty trust is a irrevocable life insurance trust. Now let me show you what that means in real numbers. Hold on. Wait a minute, hold on 1 second. Let me. Hold on. Okay. Okay, so here's the key. Now we've already talked about a trust. We're talking about the trust that holds life insurance policies on the entire generation. Okay, this is a real world example. This guy puts $12,000 a year into his life insurance policy. That means he pays $1,000 a month into his life insurance policy. And the first year, his out of pocket is $12,000. His death benefit starts at $900,000. So should something happen after the first day he pays his premium, his family is going to get, the trust is going to get $900,000. Okay? And I'm going to have to talk back here so I can move it up. His age is 37 years old, right? Oh, I'm in the way. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on 1 second here. Let me do this then. Who pays $1,000 a month? That's what I'm about to show you why you should. I'm about to show you why you should. Hold on. All right. Is that visible for everybody? That visible for everybody? Show you why you should. Over the first year, he pays $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year. Or $12,000 a year on his policy. He's 37 years old. His out of pocket that year is $12,000. I'm going real world experience. It can go less than this, but this is a real world. This is a real person. 38 years old. He does the same thing. He doesn't pull anything out in any loans the first 2 years, but he puts $24,000 into the policy. At 39, 3 years into the policy, right? If you notice, he put $60,000 into the policy. But his only out of pocket was $12,000. Can you see that? His only out of pocket was $12,000. His budget was $1,000 a month. Okay? But he flowed $60,000 into the policy, pulled out 60 minus 12 is 42? 48. He pulled out $48,000 for that year, but only left his out of pocket was $12,000. He claimed he didn't have, like I said, he only makes $60,000 a year. He claimed he didn't have any money, and in terms of didn't need an estate plan because he didn't have any assets. But he lived in a house that his mother left him in Fifth Ward in one of those gentrified areas. Okay? That means he has, does anybody have houses with equity in it? Equity? Right? What can you do with equity?
Or against.
That's the only thing you can do. Or sell the house. That's the only way you can access it. Right? It's dead money until you borrow against it or sell the house. It's dead money, right? He takes his equity in the 4th year and he puts that equity into the policy on January 1st. On January 5th, he pulls it right back out, still staying with his $1,000 a month. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Do what? Oh, me? Yep. But he flows 60,000. He flows 5,000. He gets it back. He gets $48,000 back to pay his bills. Does that make sense? Okay, so. Okay.
It's a 3% difference. So he's
No. He takes $60,000. He makes $5,000 a month. Let's say $5,000 a month. The insurance company takes $5,000 a month, sucks it out, goes to the insurance company. They send him $1,000 they send him 4,000 of that back, right?
In 3 days.
Back to his account in 3 days, back to his account. He's flowing that $4,000 or $5,000 into the account, but he's getting 4,000 right back, leaving his out of pocket $12,000 still. Okay. He does that. This is called a 7-pay. He does that for 7 years. It's still costing him $12,000 a year. The cumulative value that he's paid for that policy, and I want y'all to see, cumulative is $84,000 total at 7 years. That's where his payment stops. Because in the 8th year, instead of pulling back $4,000, he pulls back the whole 5. So now he's just flowing money into the premium bucket. When the premium bucket is credited over the year, it's credited, based on the stock market, it's compounding interest for him. Now, let me show you what that means. Let me go up here. 7 years. So in the 8th year here, as a matter of fact, I'm going to use this. So in the 8th year here, he's using the HELOC, the home equity in his house, and he's flowing that $60,000 in to the premium bucket, pulling it all back out through a policy loan, leaving 0 out of pocket. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay. What? Who said that?
Your money in insurance bank.
Uh-huh.
Am I paying a premium or am I directly depositing my check into that bank?
Well, it's basically you set it up either way you want to set it up. The insurance company, they ACH it right out of your account in terms of like you pay a bill, right? And then they send it back through ACH as well.
Premium is not my whole check.
No, it doesn't have to be. No, it could be because you're using the same dollars. Right here, he's putting, let's say this is $5,000 a month. So in January 1st, they suck it out of his bank. On January 5th or 3rd, they put it right back in his bank. Right?
If I can say it this way, you're overfunding.
Your max fund. That's called max funding.
You have the minimum premium, then you have
Right. The base premium and the maximum premium. Right. So so it's going in 60 grand and out 60 grand, and he's leaving 0 in the bank. Leaving 0 in the, okay, all right, out of pocket. So this 84,000 is going to stay the same, right? Because there's no more out of pocket after the 8th year. But what does that do?
In this scenario, the insurance agent or the insurance company.
This is net of any fees. Everything we talk about is net of any fees. So no, there's no fees here. Yeah, there's no fees here. Okay. Okay. So yeah, during this first 7, that's why it's called a 7-pay. A 7-pay is the cost. The law is the cost of insurance of an entire. When you have a policy where you pay the minimum base premium for 30 years, they spread the cost of insurance over that 30 years, right? Here in a 7-pay, they squeeze the cost of insurance into 7 years. And so after really when it's spread over 30 years, you never have to, if you pay 30 years, the minimum base premium, after 30 years, you never have to make another payment and it still stays in force, right? Because the cost of insurance has been spread over that 30 years. Here we squeeze the cost of insurance into 7 years so that in the 8th year, there's no cost of insurance so that you can pull out instead of that $1,000. That's why you can only pull out. That's why you can only get back $4,000 in your cash value because the other cost is going into the cost of insurance. Okay, but in the 8th year, there is no cost of insurance because the policy is paid for. Does that make sense?
You might have this. What does it look like when you start it on a base?
I'm about to show him. I have it coming up. So now he's just putting $60,000 in, pulling $60,000 out 5 days later. leaving zero in the policy. Now, what does that do for him? He's doing that until he is 61. At 61, he retired. So we said, okay, you're getting less in retirement. So instead of $60,000 a year, let your retirement pay $36,000 a year, $3,000 a month. Now you're pulling out $186,000 5 days later. And that's leaving $150,000 tax-free in your pocket for retirement. And that is in your pocket for retirement that you can't outlive. Every year, the insurance company is paying him $150,000 a year.
So basically, you mentioned the fee. Are you paying any type of interest on the?
Remember, when you get a loan, I said they did it at prime rate, 3%.
Yeah.
But they're crediting your premium account at 7%. You still earn a spread on that, right? So now he's earning $150,000 a year for the rest of his life that he cannot live. If he lives to 90 years old, how much does he leave his trust? That's tax-free.
So when did he start at 37?
37. Look here. So this $150,000 is tax-free.
Let's say my HELOC is, so when does this not make sense? Let's say my HELOC is at 10%.
Uh-huh.
And I take that money out to put into this policy, but my return from this policy is only.
Here's the thing. When you take the HELOC out on the 1st of January, it goes to the insurance company. You pull it back from the insurance company on the 5th of January, and then you pay the HELOC off. How much you owe? 5 days interest. This is how you alive that money. Now, this guy, because the reason it was able to grow like this is because this guy, he didn't get an extra job. He alived the money, the dead money that he had in his home equity, right? Now, if he lived to 90, oh, wait a minute. If he lived to 90, he's been collecting $150,000 tax-free, $150,000 tax-free, right? Since he was 61. When he passes away, he'll leave the trust. Did I go to 90? Oh, I missed over. He'll leave the trust $4.9 million. Now, the trust, now nobody else, none of the other beneficiaries who have policies in the trust have to look for HELOC money because the trust has it.
Back to you.
Okay.
So you're saying if I set up an IUL
Mm-hmm.
in January
Mm-hmm.
and I put in 30K and let's say 5 or 10 days, you said I can legally get that money right back.
You can get before the first 7 years, because of the law, you can only get up to 90% of that back. That's why we said he puts in 5, he gets out 4, he can up to for first 7 years, right? Now, here's the last one I'll show you. No, that's not just for the state of Texas. That is hold on one second. Oh, okay, here we go. All right, now when the trust is paying, remember I said that every beneficiary gets a life insurance policy in the trust? This trust is paying this baby's life insurance $6,000 a year. The baby is 1 year old. Now this could be your baby, the one that you know about. Yeah, they pay $6,000 a year. They didn't have to, but they pulled out $4,800 a year, and so it only costs $1,200 a year for the policy out of pocket. Okay. At the 8th year, remember I said now it's zero, nothing has to be left in the policy. So now they're just putting $60,000 in. The trust is just sending them $60,000 and then getting it right back in the account and taking that same $60,000 and putting it to the next person's account, pulling it right back out, then so on and so forth. Now, they do that until this baby is 18 years old, 19 years old. That's their first trust baby check, 20 grand, tax free. Anybody see that?
So if you put the money in, how is that?
Okay, hold on. You don't remember right here? This money's never leaving this account. When you put it in and they give it back to you, it's coming from this account. That's the uninterrupted compounded interest. It's coming from this account. And they're charging you a prime rate, but the difference between what they're giving you when they credit you at the end of the year and the prime rate, that's called arbitrage. You're still making money over here. If they credit you, if they charge you 3% over here and they crediting you 10% over here, how much is this money making?
So that's specifically goes to
No, it's a whole life policy. Now with the difference between what? Well, it depends on the insurance company. So most of them are prime rate. Good ones are prime rate. However, a whole life policy, the difference is they don't give you the ceiling and the floor. It's just 5%, period. Does that make sense? And IUL is a little better because it gives you, especially over time, you have an average. Like the stock market, the S&P average is what? 12% over time? 7% over time? You're still making money over time. But, and what does that mean? Let's go back here. What does that mean? She got her first trust fund check here. They gave her trust fund checks all the way through she's 25, then gave her $100,000 when she's 25. Now, when she is 40, that's her retirement. Tax-free. Tax-free for the rest of her life. And they can up it every time these colors change. This is money out of the trust in her hand, right? Every year for the rest of her life. Now, if she lives till this one was designed as exactly as they wanted it. They didn't want to go all the way through. But if she lives to 90, she leaves a trust $18 million. They invest in your money. That's how they stay in business. They invest in your money. That's how they stay in business is none of my concern. Yeah, I mean that's absolutely they are. They definitely are. They're spreading risk. That's what insurance companies do. They spread risk over a number of people, right? So when they credit your account, they're crediting based on the market, just like any other account, but they don't discredit you when the market goes down in an IUL or in a whole life either. Credit you when the market goes down. But my thing is that when rich people put policies in a trust, This is what they're doing. This is the family bank. Now, if she'd have come up at 30 years old and says that I need money to start a business, I need $1 million to start a business. If they gave her that $1 million and she died at 42, how much would the trust gap? That's 12.6.
Or minus $1 million.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, no. This is net. This is net. So $12.6 million.
The answer to the question that you said, another workshop, how the insurance company makes money is, the insurance interest is calculated 10%.
Right. Yeah.
About what compound interest is. Anything over 10%, but the market does 20%, insurance companies making.
Yeah. Exactly. So they have a cap. They have a cap of the money they will credit your account, and then they have a floor. The floor is 0. This is how IULs make money. So the cap on an IUL is the line in which the government says, in relation to the death benefit, that if you put more than this in this account, then it's no longer an insurance policy. It is an investment. That's called the MEC limit, right? So the MEC, so you stay below the MEC limit, and it's tax free, right? So in the early stages up here, you're putting the MEC limit in there, and as you put the MEC limit in there, right, you can pull 80 to 90% of it back and use it to pay your bills. So you 80 to, because that other 10% goes to cost of insurance. After 7 years, the government says you cannot pay the cost of insurance of a policy in less than 7 years. It's called a 7 pay, right? And it came from rich people. I got $10 million. Already taxed, I got $10 million. I could put that $10 million into the bank at 1% interest, or I can take that $10 million and put it into an insurance policy at 7% interest, right? And then take the whole $10 million from a policy loan, while the $10 million over here still earning 7% interest. I could pull it from a policy loan at 3%, use it to do my business, right? And this money still over here making money tax free. Does that make sense? It's kind of like I'm putting money in here and I'm pulling it back out tax free and making money on it.
And the business you're doing is making money as well.
Because you double leveraging the money.
Yeah.
You either double leverage the money in a business or you double leverage the money in another policy.
You're going to work.
Exactly. It's usually double leveraging a policy. And so when rich people have pools of money, dead money is HELOC money. If it's in your home, $300,000, it ain't doing nothing for you until you sell that house. Right? So if you could take it for 5 days, move it into somewhere where it's making them some money, and then pull it right back out and pay off the HELOC in 5 days. Now, I didn't get an extra job, but now over 10 years, let's say it was $300,000, over 10 years, I got $3 million that's compounding for me at 7% interest. That's the way rich people do it. And now, when we talk about the trust, I'm sorry, go ahead, Erica.
So if someone has 3 children, those 3 children who look like they have $0 of value, according to the insurance company, what will those children be valued at age 40? Each of them. Through monetary value. 12 million. Each child is worth $12 million.
That goes into the trust.
Slavery fell apart. in the UK, not because of morals, but because of an insurance case. Insurance. Each body has a value. We always say each soul has a value. But each body you create with your body has a value. And Mr. Watson, how is the best way that they can actually actualize that value for their own?
Now, the bottom line is to one, have a viable estate plan, right? Have a family dynasty trust. A family dynasty trust buys policies on all beneficiaries, right? So now all the beneficiaries, if the baby's at what is it started? It started at a few $1,000s for the policy, like $120,000 for the policy, right? Right? Costs $12,000 a year or $6,000 a year for a policy for a baby. Put it in the policy. Get yourself a policy. If you can't get a policy for yourself, get a policy for your grandkids. When you get the policy for your grandkids, the policy grows like this over time. You get with a competent agent that builds a properly designed cash value policy where the trust is the beneficiary. Once the trust is the beneficiary, it grows. And when that baby passes away, the death benefit goes into the trust. And every year, their family reunions consist of new people who are beneficiaries of the trust checks that are paid out to trust fund babies, and then the potato salad and the barbecue.
You want to have
Does it make sense?
bridges of that. So if you have a your grandchild, you're born 6 days later, they're in that family trust.
Mm-hmm.
As a grandparent,
Mm-hmm.
yours, but their parents also have
Have policies.
Policies, and so you're gonna have
All the policies are in the trust.
in that same one, or they
In the same one, same trust, same trust.
So it's in
one trust. That's a family dynasty trust. And a family dynasty trust. I'm gonna tell you how serious this is. Up until 2 years ago, family dynasty trust only lasted 21 days. 21 years. Rich people in Texas say, hey, whoa. Can we get that upped? While we fighting over pensions, they upped that to 300 years. New Texas law in 2022. 300 years. So a family dynasty trust perpetually lasts for 300 years and is protected from taxation, because all this money here is tax-free money. All the death benefit money is tax-free money. From taxes, it's protected from investment downturns, because now they have a good staff, a good family board managing the trust. And then the trust uses the tax code. This is why it took us so long to get Trump's taxes. Because all this stuff is in the trust. Right? We still don't have, that's my point, yeah. And now I'll tell you why. Because a trust is protected. A trust is only visible by a judge in a legal matter and the trustee. It is not subject to discovery by a lawsuit. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is why I didn't so I got it. I'm trying to understand where this money flow is.
Uh-huh.
All right. You're telling me, let's just start with this example right here.
Okay.
This is a person who is paying $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Right.
With the out of pocket $1,200.
Yep.
I'm trying to figure
per year
out where the $4,800 loan amount came from in year one. Where did that come from?
Remember this bucket over here, the death benefit reserve bucket?
I got that.
That's where it came from.
Okay, but hold up now.
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell the insurance company to take $4,800 out of that. Yeah, I'm saying, okay, I need to take a loan.
Yeah, send me $4,800 for my cash value.
And wait a minute now. Okay, I just got the policy. I'm saying.
But okay, this is annual. This is annual here.
I got it.
Right. Right.
I got it. Okay.
So well basically day one, January 1st, you send in $500. They send you $400 back. Oh, okay, you're not asking that. Okay, what you got?
No. I mean, I clearly understand you telling me I got to pay, $1,200 a year, $4,800 on. I got that, and I'm trying, but if only 1,200 is coming out of my pocket, where's the other?
That's where you got to. That's 1,200. Yeah, 6,000.
I got that part too.
Okay.
But the premium is 6,000. My out of pocket is 1,200. You're telling me I'm getting 4,800 on a loan that comes from the insurance company, but I just got the insurance. How's the insurance going to give me, that loan? You're telling me on day one, I can buy an insurance policy on day one, and 2 days later I can.
3 days later.
3 days later I can tell them I want a loan.
Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If I paid the full premium, if I paid the full, so
This is where insurance companies differ. On Ameritas, they don't have a threshold before you can access your cash value. Right?
I just happen to have that insurance. Oh.
Yeah. So they don't before you can access your cash value. Right? Okay. So $500 you send in on January 1st, on January 5th, they'll give you $400 back. Okay.
All right. Scroll down on your screen. I see where after 7 years you're telling me I paid that. The policy is paid off. From that point on, I'm just simply requesting money back in order to pay the premium. Correct?
No.
You just paying with money.
I'm requesting a loan. I'm paying on the premium.
Right.
That's what happens.
Well, no. This is annual, so it's $5,000. So you putting $60,000 in a year,
right?
And you requesting $5,000 in January 1st, and you get the $5,000 back. That happens every month over the year.
Okay.
Leaving zero in the policy. You don't have to pay that $1,200 no more.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Now the key is what you're doing is you're trying to put as much money in this premium account so that you can get uninterrupted compounded interest, because the money never comes out of here. You put as much money in this premium account so that you can get uninterrupted compounded interest. The money you're getting as loan is coming from the death benefit reserve account for the insurance, and it's costing you less than what they're paying you over here. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, if you scroll down even farther, I saw where you had some point where that column became zero again. Yeah, right there. What is that?
Okay, in this instance, she put $60,000 in that same year, but then she pulled out $80,000. That left $20,000 in her pocket, tax free. Down here, the trust on that trust is going to, because by the time we figured that by the time she's 25, the grantor of the family trust would have passed away and left money in the trust already. So they upped this to $120, right? So they upped this to $120. Now this is going to be credited based on this $120. But at the same time, she pulled out $220, left $100,000 in a year in her pocket tax free. We've made this zero because she's only 26 years old. Just got a job. He wanted her to work, right? Not be leaning on the money, right? So he said, I don't want to give her anything from 26 to one. It's a little bit lower, but I want to give her another 120 just in case she want to buy a house at 30 years old.
All right, my second, I got it.
Okay.
The second part of this, all of this is for a family where you got young kids, it makes a lot of sense in terms of
Mhm.
someone who's 30 years old or whatever. I'm a long way from 30.
Mhm.
So how does this benefit?
One.
Dr. Smith up there earlier, who was older.
Right, as it was. I have a. We can go over any scenario, but here's the key though. You have grandkids.
No.
You have any descendants you would put on a trust?
Yeah. I mean, I have children.
Do they-
I don't have grandchildren.
Are they gonna have grandchildren? You think?
I
I mean, okay, so, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Anybody that is in your bloodline,
Right.
whether it's a young cousin,
Yeah.
whether it's a young grandkids or kids or whatever, it's in your bloodline, if they're going to be beneficiaries of the family trust, the trust has a policy on them, right? Now, here's the key. Let's say you couldn't get in, because everybody can't get approved. It might not be age, it could be health, right? Let's say you had a 1-year-old kid and you committed to doing a policy like this on them. You started the policy. By the time they get 24, who does this money belong to? Them or you? It belongs to the trust, but you can direct it to you. You understand what I mean? Now, yes, it's in the trust, but it can go to you. So you can build a policy. You can build a policy that when you pass away, the death benefit, because you don't have a death benefit, but when it gets enough credits to where in this instance right here, the insurance company is paying the child instead of the child paying the insurance company. Even though they're flowing money through it, the insurance company is paying the child. Well, if you build a policy, then this money can be directed to you for your retirement. And then when you pass away, this money just goes to them now. Does that make sense? This is how. Now, can you imagine after 3 generations how much would be in the trust?
Chris, let's leave it at that.
Let's leave it at that.
We got quite a bit of information
Yeah.
that we covered.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot more, and that's why look at the agenda on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sharing a lot more information regarding
You want to-
an overview, and of course, advanced course, questions. And you're not going to get all this in one day, right? So,
And let me say this too. Everything is specific to specific people. Some people have grandkids, some people that have different ages, that different death benefit amounts that the insurance company will insure you for. But the thing to do is to sit down, do an application. First of all, get your estate plan together first. We don't do policies without estate plans. That's not what we do. We do estate plans first. So you get the estate plan done. We sit down with you, design a policy. You see it for yourself from your age, from your health, from everything that you have, and then design specifically tailored to you and your family. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Watson.
I explained it. Is it okay if I share the link with them?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Well, actually, he's the